skateboarding, guys. I'm at the park and I'm skateboarding. First and foremost, let me say a big shout out to all my Patreon partners. I am so grateful. I am so thankful. And I want to ask that you would pray for my left knee, that God would touch it, that God would heal it. I'm having terrible problems with it, and I want to go out to God's people and ask for a miracle because I'm in pain like all the time. Friends, I've been deceived before. I've been tricked before, and it just leaves you with this rotten taste in your mouth. And sometimes we get into our flesh and we want to take matters into our own hands. I mean, they did us wrong, they betrayed us, and we want to go fisticuffs. I mean, really, when you think about it, the pain is so deep in some of the things that have happened to us that we want to take matters into our own hands. And friends, my question to you is this: would it have happened if you were seeking the Lord, asking the Lord, and following His Spirit? In my case, the answer is a resounding no. I did not seek out the Lord's counsel. I decided to do it my way. I love being under this canopy at the park. And the reason that, because my voice echoes, I sound like Billy Graham. All right, listen to this story. It's great. The Gibeonites' deception. We're in Joshua chapter 9. Now, when all the kings of the west of the Jordan heard about the things of what? Israel was coming into the promised land, and Israel was destroying all of these nations. God had given Israel and the surrounding lands. He even went so far to say, everywhere your foot steps, that's your land. And so all these other nations, they're hearing about what's taking place. They're hearing how God has showed up and showed out for the Israelites, and they're terrified. So it goes on. However, verse 3, watch this. When the people of Gibeon heard what Joshua had done to Jericho and Ai, they resorted to a ruse. They resorted to a word that you and I are very familiar with, a con. They went out as delegations with donkeys loaded with worn-out sacks and old wineskins. They also put worn patches on their sandals on their feet and worn-out clothes that were dirty. And all the bread of their supplies was dry and moldy. So they're acting like they are sojourners. They're acting like, hey, they've been van lifing it for a while. Oh man, we've been out here for 6 months to a year. I mean, look at our food, look at our clothes, look at our shoes. And from your vantage point, and from the vantage point of our intellect, Joshua's vantage point, Israel's vantage point, without seeking the Lord, that's what it seems like. There's a con going on here. And friends, I can't tell you how many times I've been deceived, I've been conned, I've been lied to, and I don't like it, okay? And I'm going to give you the remedy so you'll never be conned again. Okay? Then the Gibeonites went to Joshua in the camp of Gilgal and said unto the Israelites, we have come from a distant country. Make a treaty with us. Make a covenant with us. Promise us. The Israelites said to the Gibeonites, but perhaps you live near us, so we can't make a treaty with you. Why? Because God said, go into the land, clear it out. Everywhere that your foot touches, that's your land. I've given it to you. It's like someone trying to bargain and trade with you with something that doesn't belong to them. The land belonged to the Israelites. But they come along and they say, no. We're your servants. I mean, we've been traveling for months. We don't live around here. Are you kidding me? No. But Joshua asked, who are you and where did you come from? They answered, your servants have come from a very distant country because of the fame of the Lord your God. No, we're from way far away. We don't live anywhere near here. For we have heard reports of people of what your God did to Egypt and all the surrounding nations, the 2 kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan, Sihon, king of Heshbon, and Og, king of Bashan, who reigned in Ashtaroth. Listen to this. And our elders and all those living in our country said to us, take provisions for your journey. Go and meet these people and say to them, we are your servants. Make a treaty with us. This bread of ours was warm when we left, and we packed it at home the day that we left to come here to see you. But now Look at our bread. It's moldy. Look at our wineskins. They're cracked. They did have new wine in them, but now they're ruined. Look at our shoes. Look at our clothes. We're not lying to you. Friends, listen very carefully. What did Joshua not do? So the Israelites and Joshua and the leaders and the priests, because they're road wise. I mean, they've lived upon the land for so long. It says that they sampled their provisions, but they did not inquire of the Lord. Then Joshua made a treaty of peace with them to let them live, and the leaders of the assembly ratified it by an oath, meaning they've just made a covenant with people who live in the land. The problem is God said, clear out the land, literally clear it out. They did not seek out the Lord. Have you ever heard the statement, if it's too good to be true, it probably isn't true? Yeah, I've heard that statement, man. Have you lived that statement? Yeah. Have you ever been tricked, fooled? Yeah. Deceived, lied to, backstabbed? Yeah. All of us are card-carrying members of the human race, and we all have had someone put one over on us. They've made a covenant before God. And you might think this because of the times that we're living. Well, they lied to me and I made a covenant and they lied to me, so I'm just going to break the covenant. You didn't do that with God. Do you understand? The covenant meant this. Before I'll break the promise, before I'll break the covenant, I'll cut myself asunder. I'll literally cut myself in half. So once you made a covenant, it was a done deal. Now do you understand when people go into marriage and they're making a covenant before holy God, why God looks down on divorce? It's just not working out. The sex isn't what it used to be. Friends, we have to watch what we promise, what we say. The words that come out of our life have power, and God holds us to our words. That's why God says, let your yeses be yeses and your noes be noes. And he says this, don't vow and don't swear by anything here on earth because you don't know what tomorrow holds. 3 days go by and Joshua is feeling pretty good about the covenant. The people are feeling pretty good. You know, we've made this peace treaty with these people. This is one less headache that we're going to have to mess with. But it says this, 3 days after they made the treaty with the Gibeonites, the Israelites heard that they were neighbors living near them. After Israel finds out what just took place, it says this, the whole assembly grumbled against the leaders. Grumbling against Joshua and the leaders. And basically the people are saying, well, just kill them all. I mean, that's what we were going to do in the first place. But now Joshua is coming and saying, no, we can't do that. We've made an oath unto death. We've made a covenant. I mean, we're stuck. And so what happens? What happens is the Gibeonites, rather than being slaughtered, are made slaves to Israel. They have to serve Israel, but they get to keep their lives. Meaning they come under the umbrella of God and the protection of Israel. It's a big deal. We're led to believe that that's the end of the story, but it's not. There's a king by the name of Saul. It was the first king of Israel. The people said, we want a king like all the other nations. And within his reign, what took place is this. King Saul tried to annihilate the Gibeonites. He went ahead and killed 2/3 of them. He didn't kill them all. And years later, David is suffering the consequences of what Saul did. Because God has allowed a great famine in the land. Listen to this. We're in 2 Samuel 21. I'm going somewhere. Watch this. During the reign of David, there was a famine for 3 years. So David sought the face of the Lord. And the Lord said, it is on account of Saul and the blood-stained house. It is because he put the Gibeonites to death. And the king summoned the Gibeonites and spoke to them. So David decides to go to the Gibeonites, the people who had survived Saul. And he says, hey, this is what's going on. How can I make this right? The buck stops here. Listen very carefully. They answered the king, as for the man who destroyed us and plotted against us so that we have been decimated to almost nothing and have no place to live in Israel, let 7 of his male descendants be given to us and killed, and their bodies exposed and hung. And so David says, okay. Can you imagine you're a descendant of King Saul, and one day you're living a good life. I mean, you have your own land, you have a job, you have lots of sheep, camels, you're doing your thing. And because of a decision of a relative, you're going to lose your life. See, David said, we'll do it. I'll deliver them. And he delivers them. Listen very carefully. He delivers them, hang these 7 people, and they just leave them out there. And God stops the famine. Friends, God holds us to our word. There are some of you who are suffering right now, here and now, because you've made a promise to someone, but you never followed through. But God oftentimes will hold us to the words that come out of our mouth. Do you understand what I'm saying? We flippantly just say, yeah, I'll do that, or I promise I'm going to do this. Friends, let me tell you, when you're promising, you're making basically a covenant. You're making a treaty. You're basically saying, I'm going to do this. And unless you make other arrangements because of something that comes into your life and you don't do it, you're going to have problems. Sometimes we suffer because of things that we have said a month ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I can think of so many times where a person came into my office when I was the pastor of a church, and they were telling me about their life and telling me all the hardships that they were going through, and they just couldn't win. They just couldn't get the breakthrough. They didn't understand what's going on in my life. And after time in prayer, seeking the Lord, we found out more times than not what had taken place was they had spoken something that they were going to do, and they didn't follow up with it. That simple. Isn't that crazy? God says to guard your mouth. You have to guard your mouth. You have to guard your heart. You have to guard your mind. There are repercussions to the lives that we live. It's ludicrous to think that there's not. I'm not talking about salvation. I'm talking about you're a born-again Christian and you have promised, you have vowed, you have said, and now you're stuck. Now you're really stuck. What you need to do is you need to go to the Lord and say, Lord, how can I make this right? Sometimes I can't go back in time. I can't find that person. I mean, it's water under the bridge. Lord, what would you have me to do to make this right before you? Because I don't have the ability nor the capacity to do it. If we will just seek out the Lord first, like Joshua and the leaders of Israel did not, you would not believe the heartache, the pain, the suffering that you would save yourself. You just wouldn't believe it. You can't be conned when you're following the Holy Spirit. You can't be tricked. You can't be deceived, because God leads us into light and truth. That's where he leads us. And so he's not going to lead you to contradict his word. See, God said to Joshua, to the leaders, to Israel, the land is yours. Clear it out. God's not going to come up over the top and say, no, these are nice people. You know, the Gibeonites are okay. Just go ahead and let them live there. No. It's not going to be like that, okay? They went outside of the umbrella and decided to make a decision based on their intellect, their reasoning, their knowledge. And someone had to clean the mess up. Who's that? It was David. But a lot of people in the meantime had died. They had starved to death. There was an economic crisis, because you can't have famine without destroying your economy. And so there's consequences to the things that we do. And friends, I just want you to realize the severity of what we say and what we do. And God is always watching. Coram Deo means this, that I'm always in the presence of the Lord. Even now, in this park, in this little pavilion, I'm in the presence of the Lord. I can feel his presence. He wants us to rely on him, trust in him. He wants us to enjoy him. He wants us to be led by his Spirit. And when we're led by his Spirit, we're not going to falter. We're not going to have the problems that we oftentimes have when we're going solo. In my own life, I shake my head because I've burned up a good 20 years from moving out and doing things my way. Look at when we're talking about life, you know, and I know, hey, one day I'm going to die, absent from the body, present with the Lord. I understand that. I do. I read the Bible. But to think that I've burned 20 years because I decided to go solo, because I decided I knew the right thing to do, what I wanted, how I was going to accomplish that. It's ludicrous. The only people that I find that are truly happy are those who have settled in their heart that He is the Lord and He's Lord over their lives. And they act like that every single day. Every single day, they're resting, they're abiding, they're trusting. They're not being fooled by the Gibeonites with the broken wineskins, the moldy bread, the clothes, because you and I can be deceived. Even Jesus said, I don't trust men because I know what's in their hearts. God's not asking any of us to judge, but He is asking us to surrender all to His Lordship so we don't have to go through the things that we read in this Bible. God gave us this wonderful book so we could apply these lessons, these truths, these stories to our lives and think, oh my gosh, I don't want to do that. Let me do it His way, and that way is going to lead me into victory. And that way is going to lead me to a place where I can prosper and God's face will shine upon me. And He'll make a table in the presence of mine enemies. He'll anoint my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy will chase me down all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Guard your promises, guard your tongues. Whatever you do, God says, don't vow, because you don't know what tomorrow holds. Follow the leader from here on out with the Lord. And if you're not sure who the leader is, it's God. Follow Him. He loves you. He's not trying to sabotage you. I can't tell you, if I just opened a file and I threw it down there and you saw it was about that thick, and all those are things that people have written to me about them choosing their way, them choosing to sin, them choosing something that God said no to. And it's just pages of sorrow. It's pages of suffering. It's pages of regret and heartache and pain, because we all think we're smart. Friends, none of us are smart. We're sheep for the slaughter. But God is the great shepherd, and He grabs a hold of us with that stick and He yanks us, and I'm glad that He does. You guys have a blessed day. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. You like this? Go ahead and give me a thumbs up. I'm going to do some more skateboarding here. Skateboard, actually, it's pretty windy today, so I have the skateboard propped up behind the camera. Let me show you that. Is that kind of cool? So there's my skateboard, and I got my remote control here, and I just go around the park and I praise the Lord, and I rest. It's a really pretty neat park here. I mean, I really like this park because there's a 1.5 mile loop, which is just totally awesome. And here's the thing. Hey, baby, freedom isn't free. Where's the flag? Oh, there it is. All right, love you guys. Have a wonderful day. Remember, your best days lie ahead, because that's the direction that the Lord is taking you. Peace.